Hello, Internet friends. Welcome back. Thanks once again for joining. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the programming that I'm going through. So it's not a real topic necessarily, I guess, of discussion. It's just kind of giving you guys some updates on what's happening. As some of you, or hopefully most of you know, I have been running the Strength Athletes Generalized Intermediate program as kind of my return to formal training over the summer. I had some regression. I've talked about that in this series and needed something that was a little bit more just solid to get myself back to training hard consistently again. And I just kept getting setback after setback. And finally, when I got a hold of this program, that's what I started doing. And as most of you should know, I'm being coached by the Strength Athlete. I'm being coached by Hanny and Eric specifically. And as we've been going the first 5 weeks of the program, I ran pretty much as written. With the only real changes I was making were, since I don't have a way to do chest supported rows on 2 of the row variant days, I changed those out for pull-ups and either band rows or doing inverted rows like I've been doing recently. So what's all that have to do with anything? Well, this is the start of the 6th week, and this is the first week that we're actually changing some of the programming to be a little bit more specific to me. As we were running the normal programming, I was noticing, and they were noticing, that even though I was being challenged by the increases, I wasn't hitting the RPEs by the end of the sets that I guess would have me fit the avatar with the rate of progression and the rate of the fatigue accumulation. And so what we're doing is we're actually extending the accumulation block. We're actually extending the amount of time before the volume taper that should continue to make the training more and more difficult and more hard on my body, so that I'll continue to accumulate fatigue as we go. And so on this particular workout, it was supposed to be, if I would have just continued with the general program, it would have been 5 triples at a weight like 520 or something. And what we ended up doing instead was this weight 505 for 5 sets of 5. So the volume on the squats is definitely not dropping down, and I'm also continuing to add volume on the bench pressing. And so you're going to see in this session that I actually am doing 4 sets of 6 on my pressing, and then instead of I'm doing 5x5 on my close grip and 5x5 on my inverted rows. And so the volumes are actually continuing to stay high. We're going to continue to increase those volumes at least for a little while longer, and yeah, that's kind of what's going on. As far as thoughts going through this workout, it was a little bit intimidating. 505 for a set of 5 is not really a big deal to me. I've definitely lifted much more than this in the past for a set of 5, but something that was kind of creeping back into my mind was that I was thinking about the last time that I've done it at this body weight and the last time that I have done this much volume in this range. So 25 total lifts at 505 ends up being a fair amount, considering that since we started this program, I've lost about 5 or 6 pounds. I've been tracking my nutrition intake pretty consistently for the last 43 or 44 days, and just by cleaning up my nutrition and being really diligent on hitting specific macro numbers, I've noticed that my body weight has come down and is settling a lot more between like a 211 and a 213 or 214 range, where before I was around 217 or 218, and that's been a little bit of a mental challenge for me. And one of the things in the summer that really was a struggle was my body weight went from around 220 pounds down to around this range, and I don't think I was ready mentally for the differences that would create. I mean, obviously, when you lose weight, you're going to have some shifts in your strength. Even the leverages that you have change, so everything feels different. But I wasn't as mentally prepared for that in that circumstance, in that situation. And when I was doing all of my own programming and making all of those decisions myself, I had a very difficult time being objective in determining how things were going. And so I think this has been a much better experience because I haven't had to worry about that. Obviously, it's going to be tougher. And so these 505 sets of 5 were not, they were tough. I'm not going to lie. These were not easy sets. But again, like I talked about last week, I've allowed myself to kind of embrace this mentality and this approach that, yeah, it's going to be difficult, and it's all right that it's going to be difficult because that is the purpose of this. And it's, I think, one of the key points that you have to get whenever you're doing higher volume training or whenever you're doing submaximal training. The point isn't that it's going to be easy. The point is that you're going to be accumulating so much fatigue over time that submaximal weights that should be moving easily are going to start to feel difficult. You're going to have your RPEs, your rate of perceived exertion, is going to spike closer to higher on the scale than if you were walking in fresh and completely deloaded. And the purpose of that, you're accumulating all this fatigue, you're accumulating all this, you're making it tougher on yourself so that once you start to drop the volume, once you start to lower that variable that is inducing so much fatigue on your body, you will see a supercompensation effect where you can increase the intensity and you won't even really notice that as that fatigue drops off, your ability to be stronger and exhibit the progress you've made and the strength you've made is kind of accelerated, or at least it's a lot more clear. And so that's what we're going for with this. We're extending that accumulation phase, so I'm going to kind of snuggle into the grind a little bit more and just settle and continue to push it, and weights that may not always feel difficult are going to start to feel difficult, and they're going to be a struggle, and my rest periods are going to be a challenge to get back under the bar, and you may not always want to get back under the bar, but knowing that it's all going to pay off because this work does translate into progress is an incredibly motivating feeling. And like I talked about in my last video, I absolutely love the process, and you can tell when you're putting in this work and you're practicing and you're working and things are getting difficult, if you can keep the perspective that all of that struggle is just you kind of filling up this work bucket, or this reserve of all the progress that you're going to be able to express once that fatigue is dropped off, that in itself is pretty motivational, and I'm really excited to see how it keeps going. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this or found it informing or something, and I will talk to you all very soon. I hope you're having a great day. Bye.